"She doesn't even look like she belongs here." The range instructor didn't whisper. He announced it. Other soldiers laughed, but the woman didn't respond. She stepped forward, shouldered the rifle, and fired. The bullet ripped through the air and hit something no one expected. Silence. And the general, watching from 30 feet away, took one slow step back. Jenna Reyes, 32 years old, short stature, thin build, dressed plainly, hair tied back neatly. Nothing that stood out among hundreds of military personnel. Recently transferred to the base from a mountain logistics unit. Always cleaned her own weapons, checked her own scopes, spoke little, didn't socialize. Her appearance made others easily overlook her. Someone who doesn't draw attention was how teammates described her. A sergeant once said, "She probably hasn't even fired a real shot yet." Others joked, "Probably better at making coffee than shooting." The selection test for marksmen for a high-level demonstration shooting was being prepared. Jenna registered. The list was approved, but there was talk. "She looks like warehouse personnel." When Jenna appeared at the training ground, others' eyes followed her with skepticism. A soldier quietly said, "She doesn't even look like she belongs here." What they didn't understand was Jenna's quiet competence. Her unremarkable appearance was deliberate, a survival skill learned in combat zones where standing out could mean death. She had perfected the art of being invisible while remaining completely prepared. Every morning, she arrived early to study range conditions, wind patterns, temperature variations, humidity levels, all factors that affected bullet trajectory. While others socialized or complained about training requirements, Jenna methodically prepared for scenarios they couldn't imagine. Her plain clothing and quiet demeanor weren't signs of incompetence. They were the habits of someone who had learned that survival often depended on not drawing attention. The mountain logistics unit she had transferred from wasn't just supply management, it had been forward operating bases where logistics personnel doubled as combat support. But her records were classified. Her real experience was buried in files that required special clearance to access. So her new teammates saw only surface appearances, a quiet woman who didn't fit their image of a soldier. They missed the steady hands that never shook under pressure, the eyes that constantly assessed threats and opportunities, the controlled breathing that indicated years of stress management training. Jenna absorbed their dismissive comments without reaction. She had learned long ago that proving yourself through argument was less effective than proving yourself through performance. Today would be that opportunity. The selection test would separate those who looked the part from those who could actually perform when performance mattered. Jenna knew which category she belonged in. Soon, everyone else would too. CTA Comment Act 1. Ever seen a good person looked down upon? Type SOUNFAIR. When the official roster was read, Jenna's name appeared at the bottom. People assumed it was a token spot, just for appearances. Early morning, she arrived an hour before shooting time. Nobody paid attention. A young soldier noticed her drawing wind maps by hand, taking notes on paper instead of using digital measuring equipment. A medic recognized her name and quietly told a colleague, "Reyes was at Kilo Outpost in 2020. That was where Special Forces soldiers were surrounded, and only 2 people survived the attack." Another person whispered, "She's the one who fired the single shot that broke the door for reinforcements when the team was trapped." Jenna didn't confirm, just quietly cleaned her scope, checked ammunition. Shooting time arrived. She was last. Major General Rourke had just arrived at the training ground, stopping by to watch the final portion. The whispers about Kilo Outpost contained fragments of a story that few people knew completely. In 2020, a 12-person special operations team had been conducting reconnaissance when they were ambushed by overwhelming enemy forces. Cut off from reinforcement, trapped in a concrete building with limited ammunition and no communication, the situation had been hopeless. Enemy forces had barricaded the only exit with heavy steel doors, planning to wait until the Americans ran out of ammunition and water. Standard protocol would have been to call for air support or heavy artillery, but the team's position was too close to civilian areas. Someone needed to make an impossible shot through a 2-inch gap in the door mechanism to release the lock from outside. Range, 800 meters. Wind, variable. Visibility, limited. Pressure, maximum. 11 soldiers had looked at the shot and declared it impossible. The 12th, a logistics specialist named Jenna Reyes, had quietly asked for one bullet. Her single shot had threaded through the gap, struck the release mechanism, and opened the door just as enemy forces were preparing their final assault. 9 soldiers had walked out alive because of that shot, but the operation had been classified. Jenna's heroism had been buried in files that officially didn't exist. She had requested transfer to routine assignments afterward. No recognition, no promotion, no publicity. Just a quiet return to normal duties, carrying skills that most people would never know she possessed. Now, years later, she was being dismissed as inadequate by soldiers who had never faced life-or-death shooting situations. The irony wasn't lost on her, but she remained silent, focused on the task ahead. Major General Rourke's presence added pressure to an already tense situation. This wasn't just a training exercise anymore. It was a demonstration that would be evaluated at the highest levels. Other soldiers felt the weight of expectation. They knew their performance would be analyzed and discussed. But Jenna felt something different, the calm that came from knowing exactly what needed to be done. She had made impossible shots before, under worse conditions, with higher stakes. Today's test was difficult, but it wasn't life or death. That distinction made all the difference in her mental preparation. While others worried about embarrassing themselves, Jenna focused on the technical requirements of the shot. The targets had been designed to challenge the shooters. 2 small plates, one stationary, one hanging by a thin wire, separated by 3 inches at 1,000 yards. It would require absolute precision, perfect timing, complete mastery of environmental factors. Most shooters would be satisfied just hitting one target. Jenna was planning something different. CTA Comment Act 2. If you've ever misjudged someone, type, "I was wrong." Jenna stepped up. No assistance. No one expecting anything. On the screen appeared the targets. 2 small plates, one standing, one hanging by thin wire, 3 inches apart, 1,000 yards. A soldier said, "If she hits that, I'll eat nothing but canned sausage for a week." Jenna lay down. She wasn't tense. Her grip was firm, eyes reading the wind. She adjusted slightly, took breath, then squeezed the trigger. Crack. The entire training ground fell silent. The screen flickered for 0.5 seconds. The standing plate snapped in half at center. The hanging plate didn't fall, but the bullet grazed it, making it spin one full rotation. Camera zoomed in. The hanging wire cut clean like thread. The target dropped, intact. General Rourke stood silent. He looked down at the ground, then stepped back. The commanding officer asked quietly, "Sir, are you all right?" The general said, "That shot, identical to the one at Kilo." An officer quickly accessed files. Reyes, Jenna, infantry, participated in Kilo Outpost Rescue 2020. He turned around, looked at Jenna, then announced, "She once saved 9 lives with a single bullet. And today, I understand why." The entire training ground went dead silent. The soldier who had mocked her hung his head. Nobody spoke, but everyone knew. They had just witnessed something unimaginable. The demonstration had been designed to test precision under pressure, but what they had witnessed transcended testing. Jenna's shot had accomplished something that bordered on the impossible. Not just hitting both targets, but demonstrating complete mastery of ballistics, timing, and environmental factors. General Rourke approached slowly, his expression mixing respect with recognition. "Sergeant Reyes, I've read the classified reports from Kilo. Your actions saved my nephew's life." The personal connection hit like a thunderbolt. This wasn't just professional recognition. It was deeply personal gratitude. "Staff Sergeant Marcus Rourke was part of that trapped unit," the general continued. "He's told me about the impossible shot that opened their escape route." Jenna remained quiet, but her composure showed slight emotion for the first time. "Sir, I was just doing my job." "No," Rourke replied firmly. "You were doing something far beyond your job description. You were performing miracles under pressure." The assembled soldiers began understanding the magnitude of what they had witnessed. This wasn't just exceptional marksmanship. It was a demonstration by someone with combat-proven abilities. The shot at Kilo required threading a bullet through a 2-inch gap at 800 meters. Rourke explained to the crowd, under enemy fire, with limited ammunition, while 9 lives hung in the balance. He gestured toward the destroyed targets. Today's demonstration was technically easier than what she accomplished in combat, and she made it look effortless. The transformation in the group was complete. Soldiers who had been dismissive now looked at Jenna with awe and embarrassment. "Sir," one soldier asked, "why didn't she tell us about her background?" Rourke smiled grimly. "Because heroes don't announce themselves. They just perform when performance matters." He addressed Jenna directly. "Sergeant, would you consider returning to active tactical assignments? The Army needs shooters with your capabilities." Jenna shook her head. "Thank you, sir, but I prefer support roles. Combat has taught me that sometimes the most important contribution is enabling others to succeed. Then would you consider training our advanced marksmen? Your techniques could save lives." "I'll help however I can, sir." The crowd began dispersing, but many soldiers approached Jenna personally, wanting to apologize for their earlier dismissive comments and to learn from her expertise. Jenna accepted their change in attitude gracefully, without any trace of resentment for their previous treatment. "We all make assumptions," she told them. "What matters is being willing to adjust those assumptions when presented with new information." As the demonstration officially concluded, word was already spreading through military networks about the impossible shot and the quiet logistics specialist who had delivered it. But Jenna packed up her equipment quietly, just as she had arrived. No celebration, no boasting, no seeking additional attention. Just professional competence demonstrated when demonstration was required. CTA Common Act 3. If someone helped you but you never got to thank them, write "I owe someone." Jenna didn't request promotions, didn't demand recognition. She just quietly returned to her position, disassembled the rifle, cleaned it, and placed it in her bag. The next day, there was a small class behind the training ground. People saw her drawing wind diagrams for a few recruits. A line was written on paper taped near the shooting table. "Technique is just a tool. Calm mind is the weapon." J. Reyes General Rourke left a badge in her coat pocket, with no official announcement. "1 shot, 1 life, Kilo certified." Jenna wrapped it carefully, didn't wear it, but kept it close to her heart. Word of Jenna's demonstration spread quickly, but she deflected all interview requests and media attention. "The story isn't about me," she would tell anyone who asked. "It's about the team that survived because everyone did their job." Her impromptu training sessions became popular among soldiers seeking to improve their marksmanship skills, but Jenna's teaching focused on more than technical accuracy. "Shooting is 10% technique and 90% mental preparation," she would tell her students. "Learn to control your breathing, your heart rate, your focus. The rifle will take care of the rest." Her approach was unlike traditional military instruction. No yelling, no intimidation, just calm explanation and patient demonstration. "In combat, you don't have perfect conditions," she explained during one session. "You have chaos, limited time, and people depending on your accuracy. Practice controlling your mind first, your body second." Students found her methods more effective than formal training programs. Her emphasis on mental preparation created marksmen who performed better under pressure. Years later, many of her informal students credited Jenna with transforming their understanding of marksmanship. Not because she demanded recognition, but because she demonstrated that true expertise combined technical skill with psychological mastery. The Kilo Outpost story eventually became required reading in advanced tactics courses, though Jenna's identity remained classified in official documents. But among soldiers who served with her, the story was legend. The quiet logistics specialist who saved 9 lives with 1 impossible shot. Jenna continued her support role, training others when asked, serving without seeking attention. Her example proved that heroism often came in unremarkable packages from unexpected sources. The soldier who looked like nobody special had reminded everyone that special abilities weren't always visible on the surface. They were revealed only when circumstances demanded excellence. And when that moment came, Jenna Reyes had been ready. CTA Comment Act 4. Type, "I'll live better." if you believe every good person deserves to be remembered forever. There are people who look unremarkable, not outstanding, don't speak up, but they're the ones who create unrepeatable moments. Jenna Reyes reminds us that you don't need noise to change perspectives, just one action at the right time. In a world that judges by appearance, sometimes the extraordinary comes from people you never notice. Next time you see someone standing quietly alone, don't laugh. Don't rush to judgment. Who knows? You might be standing next to a legend. The most powerful lesson from Jenna's story is about hidden competence. Not all heroes announce themselves with dramatic entrances or impressive credentials. Some walk quietly among us, carrying skills developed through experiences we can't imagine. They don't seek recognition because they've learned that competence speaks louder than conversation. When the moment demands excellence, they deliver without fanfare or explanation. Jenna's unremarkable appearance was her greatest asset. It allowed her to observe, prepare, and act without the burden of others' expectations. Her story teaches us to look beyond surface judgments and recognize that extraordinary capability often comes in ordinary packages. Because sometimes the person who looks like nobody special is exactly the person you need when everything depends on getting it right the first time. Excellence doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just performs when performance matters most.